That was I got on a roll with it last night.
Speaking of roles, you did absolutely get on a roll. That article, yeah, I think just got everyone interested in the whole league again. So welcome Jeremy to a little four cups, two dads, two champs, little mano a mano, where we can hopefully pose some big questions to each other and just talk some NSL. How are you?
Good man, how you doing?
Good. I'm so glad to be on holidays. I've been so unproductive the last couple of days, and I feel so much better. So it was good. I've watched some TV, some domestic duties. Other than that, just trade trolling. Hoping there'll be some
Yes.
free agency news in the NBA. How about your last few days on holidays?
Yeah, pretty similar. We've had the old influenza bug go through the house, so we had some plans to go on holiday, but it's not looking likely. The weather outside is also not enticing.
Nope.
There's a bit of rain on the windows, so we've got the fireplace going over there, and we're just bunkering down, which means that that the NSL gets put first. I've had some time to put that report type writing energy into looking at the league's position going into free agency and the draft, and yeah, just been trade trawling, lots of chats. It's been fun.
It
It's
was a
been
great,
heaps of fun.
yeah. The article was a great take. Read it a couple of times. I love when someone's willing to put the time in to look at every team, and it just brings in that community, like everyone matters. And yeah, you really summarized it well with the aprons narrowing down. I feel like there's less notches on the path than there used to be. You're either like all the way in, and you've probably got 2 years to really give it a tilt. Unless you have someone like Giannis, which your window's longer, but you're either all the way in, all the way out, or there's about 20 teams that you even mentioned are two decisions away from being all out again or all in again. And do they have the scope to even make the moves to move either side? Like it's so restrictive now, even with the new first apron rules that have come in that aggregating, what was the one? No, taking on more salary in a deal hard caps you at
Yep,
the first apron. That's madness. Like no matter
huge.
whichever trade, someone's getting hard capped at the first apron if they're not there already.
Yeah. It's and that's why you see that trend in the NBA where there's so much packaging and they're starting to bring in 7, 8 team deals.
Yeah.
And even if there's some teams getting a little bit here, there, and everywhere, it's because they're all trying to avoid the ramifications of the apron. But yeah, looking through the teams, it was really interesting because you do look with a different lens now. Like in the past, you would just look at collective talent, whereas having a bit of experience with the aprons now and starting to get used to them, you realize that the talent, like a massive collection of talent, isn't necessarily the best situation. Like you can probably hold it for a little while. So yeah, as you said, you've really got to streamline what you've got into a maximum effort when your window's open.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, consolidate, which you did perfectly around the deadline.
A
Was it
year and a bit,
last
year and
season?
a season and a half ago, but it's actually, hey, E, welcome.
Big E, Noodles.
Yo, what's going on?
Great. We were just we're just talking about how so Jez summarized really well that the aprons are funneling teams into not only less moves but less kind of notches on the either the path to contention or the path to rebuilding. Um, and then what were we just talking about, Jez? Oh yeah, the windows. I think you
Hmm.
summarized that perfectly because teams that spring to mind who, even before the aprons came in, missed their windows at a genuine chance to win a title.
Yep.
Boston missed their window. That's gone. Um,
Yep.
Memphis, they
There's
were they were
yeah.
one
th-
they were one by now KD move away from winning a title. They've missed that window. Now they're like a really good rebuilding team. Um,
hmm.
even
That Rootsy's actually navigated that beautifully
yes,
because he managed to somehow get out of the apron but keep hitting the draft really well. So he's got those cheap, really impactful players, and that's just a massive key too. But looking around the league last night, it was really interesting because there's a lot of teams like Denver that have like really good win now players, but also good young
Yeah.
players. But now the contracts are starting to catch up, and it's like, okay, you got to choose a way to go. Are you going to go all in, or are you going to go like and like who are you going to prioritize? Is it
Yeah.
going to be Sabonis now, or is it going to and Mitchell, or is it going to be get rid of them, look at the next generation, and get as much as you can before you're in a situation where you're selling and and you're in a bit of financial trouble. So it's difficult. But there's probably 5 to 10 teams in that position. I felt.
I think sorry, you go, E.
Because I was gonna say it's really hard to do the two timeline thing. Like it's not really possible at all unless you like absolutely nail your picks
Yeah.
and can write like the second wave of it. If you don't nail your picks and then you end up with all these really expensive players and all this kind of stuff, like it's just really hard to navigate like a two timeline setup these days.
Yeah. And I think Rootsy's done an amazing job, and now it was a failure to truly contend for a title, but he never lost control of the portfolio. Like he's handled the selling and the figuring out the financials really well. It was just more that's the team I visualize when you say it bottlenecks into 1 or 2 years where your money's good, you've got enough talent. Like, did you push all the way in and give it a shot? Because it's terrifying. You've been there successfully, unsuccessfully. Like the pitfall of going all in and not winning it sucks. It's just even harder now to have that. It seems it's gonna be even harder to have that moment of truly being a contender before your 2 or 3 really good young guys are like paid 50 million a year. And yeah, what do you do then when they're not ready to win a title?
And that's examples of that are about to come into that situation. Like I had a look at a few teams like Cleveland, where uh, they've got the big extension for Scotty Barnes that's about to kick in. And, they're probably the deepest team in the league, but now they're going to have to make a decision with what they're going to do. As I said, the Nuggets, Boston are in a pretty crazy position where they have
Crazy.
heaps of talent, heaps of young guys, and they're all going to get paid. So
And
their
he's
cap
got
situation's looking crazy.
paid him out for a whole
Um,
year, like a holding pattern year, when in 2 years' time there'll be another two young guys on 25 mil. And like, which teams have no team has cap space? Like, where do you sell that to? 3 or 4 years ago, I feel like there was way more options for cap space. But even earliest parts of our off season, just looking at all the teams, and sure, there's cap holds and everything, but I'm like, every team's in the Lux. There's going to be like 10 teams not paying a Lux tax this year.
yeah, I think I put. Oh, sorry, and if you wanted to jump in too, feel free. But I
Yeah,
think I underlined two
uh,
teams in the article. I underlined the Clippers and the Knicks being teams to watch this offseason, but I also quite like the look of Toronto, and I'm curious to see what Dylan is going to do as well, because they're probably three of the main teams
Yeah,
without knowing all the details of the trades and the financials of everything that's locked in. They're
yeah,
probably the main teams that I look at and go, that there's potential to join that race with the Warriors, and so forth. So, but then what free agents are there? What's worth
exactly.
spending on?
I mean, cap space is the inverse of big free agents moving, and that's just doesn't happen anymore, especially with the aprons coming in. Like, there's way more sign and trade deals because, yeah, we don't want you to stay, but you've got nowhere to go either. So, like, we may as well figure out a sign and trade and get some second rounders back or something like that. And you posted even like a meme of it or a GIF the other day, like the cohesion that's required now with front offices, I suppose, like to borrow from the NBA, to actually get some of these deals done and not destroy each other's, like hard cap each other, like at the aprons, like to navigate that as well.
it's a really funny balance. Like I was listening to a podcast with Rosillo and Bobby Marks, and he was talking about how in the draft room, teams will intentionally or Bobby Marks was talking about teams will intentionally try to mess with teams when they're on the clock, and then like call them up and be like, "Hey, what about this that we were talking about a while ago? This trade. Now, if we
Ah,
throw this in to kind of distract them and like mess with them when they're on the clock," which I thought was cool. So
with
there's
the,
this like it was really cool, but there's this balance of like you need the rapport with your fellow GMs so that like you can work together at some stages, but you also are in a competitive league where you're trying to, you know, to win. So yeah, it's really interesting. Like you got to be able to negotiate so much better, I think, and take some losses when you really need to take the loss with a trade, but then maybe that opens the door for something later as well. So yeah, I thought that was I recommend that. I put it on the NBA thread, that
yeah, I saw
podcast. It
that.
was super, yeah, insightful.
I mean, speaking of the aprons,
I,
you've made one move already to try and get under. You're probably in the most pertinent position to talk to us about your thinking behind avoiding the second apron or a team avoiding the second apron.
yeah, like I've made the one move so far, which cleared a fair chunk of cap for us, which was pretty important. But I guess like the hardest thing in my position is like I got so many players under contracts, but they're all on kind of like those mid-level contracts in between like the 17 to like 22 million range. I got like 5 players there or something.
Yeah.
And then it's just in terms of like the apron, like it's so hard to navigate those things and to find like value in deals and all that kind of stuff. Like I think in any instance, probably going to end up taking in value to try and navigate the aprons because the teams who aren't on those apron thresholds, they know they have a little bit of extra leverage that they might not have had before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just enjoy.
Is that,
What
can
would
you
you
hear?
say, Joel? How do you find it at the moment?
Nels, was that my internet stuffing up or was that E hard to hear?
He's on mute.
Mute button. Sorry, it could have been mine. I don't know. It just glitched out hard on mine too.
Yeah, it was really glitchy for me too. Sorry, E, I heard you say what I think you're explaining that you've got all these. Well, obviously, you're trying to win and stay as competitive as possible, but you've got all these 17, 18, 19 mil contracts, and there's not that many teams out there that can cater for giving you two or three guys for those players. But you're in this tricky position where this is your pinnacle of like your peak all in. Like Nelson and I were talking about before, you've got 1 or 2 years to kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit and go for it. And that's probably your year this year. So are you worrying too much about those, I suppose, consequences of the second apron? And that's what teams have to weigh up, I suppose. And I just picture sentimental GMs just getting in so much trouble in the next few years where it's just like they can't do what Boston did in the NBA and they're just like, well, we're fucked. Trade everyone. It's not about getting value back. It's about protecting our like keeping our salary situation intact so we're not destroyed in the draft or we're not destroyed financially for the next few years. Whereas there's 10 GMs I can't imagine even trading like their 10th worst player for nothing to save their own skin. They'll just be like negotiating and negotiating. And then it's going to be interesting to see 2, 3 years down the line which teams get the pick that they hold like pushed to the end of the first round and get these massive luxury tax fines. And it's uncharted territory. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think like ultimately that's what you want to avoid in the end. So like those teams that you are dealing with that have that little bit of extra leverage
Yeah.
because you are trying to navigate those aprons, like you're kind of bent over a barrel in a way. Like you just have to take the hit, and there's no other real way around it.
Yeah, the benefit being survival, and I guess you and Daz are both pretty straight shooters, and yeah, you give up plenty of value to Daz, but you get to dip below the Aprons, the Lux, and who knows, with one other kind of cost saving move, you could keep your core guys and still have a roster and still not trigger any of the Aprons if you get it right. So yeah, it's just a lot to think about, I suppose, for those teams that are all the way in.
I briefly touched on it too. Like the thing that probably hurt us the most recently was Mobley winning Defensive Player of the Year because he got that accelerator where it
Yeah,
added an extra 8 million to his salary each year now. So
yeah,
instead of like having 8 million to play with and being that extra 8 million on the Lux, like I'm just it just puts you in a much harder position. And like those, I don't know, you hear it a lot in the media. They always touch for those kinds of things, like your player doing well, and now you have to pay more for it. Like I kind of agree with that sentiment at the same time.
I hope they change that in the next CBA. Like there's some kind of loyalty or like homegrown discount where if it is the guy you've drafted and like SGA gets his super mega max, whatever it's called, that there is 20% of that kind of the value is outside of the salary cap. Like there's some kind of reward, but because like you're going to see OKC in the NBA, they're going to have to make massive decisions soon. And the dynasty will just be dead. Like there's just no player that'll be on a team, or teams won't have the same players for a long period of time at all because you just have to like chop and change all the time, which takes a bit of the romanticism out of the game and a bit of the investment into players and makes it just really low attention span, kind of like fantasy trades, I suppose, which isn't what it's normally been like.
You see how fast the Boston Celtics tore down that team that
Yeah,
was still in the window. Like literally one injury to Tatum and they just like tear it down like it's
yeah,
over.
yeah,
And new management obviously, like there's a lot of reasons behind it, but like that's the situation. If you can't contend for 2 years, or if
yeah.
something significant like that happens, then there's no point. Like you might as well just sit below that first apron, bide your time, and then you'll get another opportunity, hopefully within Tatum's window, if he comes back from his injury as the player he was before. But yeah, it's pretty hectic. Like yeah, you got to be pretty a lot more strategic, and it makes our game way more sophisticated as well. It's not just accumulate talent, accumulate talent.
Uh,
It's like okay, problem solve,
it's
look for
another,
strategies, look
yeah.
for time windows, have a spreadsheet so you kind of planning forward. Like it's pretty cool.
Look, I've come to the other side as well. Like, if you can't beat them, join them. Like, it becomes a bigger problem-solving challenge, and it just adds way more facets to team building, trading, analyzing, which I love all those things. So it's just going to be nice to, yeah, explore what those kind of deals like. Like seeing Ethan say, "Oh, I'm really like I'm happy that I traded Grayson Allen in a first for 3 seconds," and it's just like whoa, like which, like when has that ever been a good deal? But Ethan did exactly what he needed to do. Um, and the value that Ethan gets out of it is he keeps the rest of his team intact. So, yeah, brave new world, but I think people will start getting used to it. And yeah, the next few years, you're going to see some teams have to make some big cuts, I think.
And it'll be cool to see when those like when the league catches up with like, oh, that's a bargain contract, like that is way more valuable at that price than this at that price. Like that Dylan deal with Brunson Trey,
Oh,
that trade, like I don't think people realized at the time and still probably don't acknowledge that move by Dylan was like really, really sharp. And his team looks like kind of ready to shake up the off season this
you,
season as well.
Dylan's OKC team or Dylan's Toronto team? Which one? So you bit
Well,
off,
he had to sacrifice the
bit off, yeah,
OKC team a
bit off
little
his
bit.
nose to spite his face. Is that the saying? The proverb or whatever? Gee, the Raps did well. That 30 million, $32 million Brunson deal's great. Who'd he trade with again? And look, I haven't looked at
Look,
OKC, but I don't know what.
I looked at them in the article. I
Yeah,
looked at
tell
them in
me,
the article, and
are
I
they
I looked at
financial?
Curry. His contract's like 60 million. That's heaps. Like that's crazy. So hard to carry a contract like that if you don't have the structure already built around the player. You know, if you're bringing in a brand new piece to build around, and that's 60 million, like that's going to be tough. That's going to be really hard.
But in not defending OKC, but what
I had
OKC,
a brief look at us.
you go,
Like,
Eve.
no, you're right. You finished that.
No, I was just going to say, Ant Edwards is the reason why that is palatable for OKC because he's kind of hit his 90s when he's only 23 or 24. Even his first big extension's still going to be like less than the other 30 superstars who've been like in the game for 8 years plus. So that's what they've still got going for them. Your turn, E.
I was just saying, like, I was looking at our salaries in a couple of years' time, and they're going to be paying SGA and Mobley if they're still together, which I expect they will be. A combined like $118 million between the two players in a couple of years, and I was just like, that is like the reality of having two max players, but it's just crazy money, and like with the aprons and stuff, it just puts such a different emphasis on roster building from now on. Like you,
Yeah.
and that going back to that Brunson deal, like it's just a bargain contract, and it's going to set the Raptors up so well in the long term.
Yeah.
And Miles just signed a really nice like cheap contract too. He's just like 25-ish.
Yeah, 25, 24. I reckon it's even less in the first year. So, um, yeah, there we go. Aprons. Hey, look at all the buzz just discussing how he would manage. Hey, diggity dog.
I mean,
What's going on? Oh, look at you, you fucking slick motherfucker, Ethan. Just one-handed it like a boss.
That's got to be a record, like the fastest swear upon entry to a podcast. That's that was almost milliseconds.
Yeah, I wasn't even trying either.
Clem, we've literally only talked about one topic, how the first and second aprons are, and it will change trading going forward. How Ethan said he was happy with trading Grayson and a first for 3 seconds because it's kept the rest of his team intact, and that now this is the landscape in the NBA as well, where teams, you just got to make these rash decisions. If your window's closed and you're over the second apron, like get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And when to push in and risk all those sort of apron ramifications.
It used to be kind of the case to a lesser extent when you'd sort of deal with a team that was right, which was sort of restricted in terms of salary, and whether they like to sort of admit it or not in the negotiations, you knew it was a bit of a leverage point. Now it's kind of hard and fast. It's kind of like, look, here we fooling here. Like I know where you're at in terms of salary and everything, and you really are. There's no sort of loopholes or wiggle room. It's kind of like, nah, you're either dealing or you're not dealing, or you're giving up salary, sort of thing. So what do you want to do? So I think it's a good thing for especially for any teams that are trying to like myself, who are trying to take opportunity on the trade front, and it really sort of caps those teams that are contending, to a more of an extent than before, I would guess.
Oh, absolutely. Like I remember my first 2 or 3 years paying like, oh, everyone's frozen. No, there we go. The other two are frozen. Yeah, those first 3 years in the league, I reckon I paid average 100 GMs a season in Lux tax. And if I was going to keep going that way with all of these penalties as well, I'd be like Rootsy was a year ago. I'd be looking at like 400 or 500 fine, like the massive repeater tax fines and like the massive salaries. And yeah, you're dead. If you get fined that much, you're never coming back. You're dead.
And you've got to kind of back it up at free agency as well. But
Sketchy internet. I don't know if
I've
it's
got except else.
Nels is gone. Clem,
Ethan, why does it seem like you've gone the whole 70s porn route and you've rubbed a thing of Vaseline on your camera
He's blanked.
Am I back?
It's
He's
just
back.
It's giving me that kind of
No,
vibe.
save us. Save us. You're back.
Okay, I don't know what happened there, but you guys glitched out, and then I glitched out. Apparently, J-Max is getting the full experience.
We're all switching out.
Tell us
I
about
know who's hosting this, but yeah.
what were you going to say, Nels?
Well, it was a long time ago that we started glitching out.
You said back it up in free agency, massive luxury tax fines. You were about to
Yeah,
say something poignant.
yeah, I mean, it's just, I think I finished with like, it's just, like compounded interest, really. You're just like multiplying the penalties now. So you got to be clever, like, and it's a good spot to operate just below that first apron if you can for as long as possible.
Yeah.
But if as soon as you get a good young player, you've got to pay them, then
Well,
you just got to do
There's
what you got to do.
far less of the whole. I'll just go all in and figure it out later. You just can't. You can't. That's a really risky move now, rather than before. It was sort of like, the better jams will be able to weasel out of it. I don't think you can weasel out of it as much anymore.
Yeah,
well, even like we obviously were paid to take on some contracts last year in all of our downgrade moves, but projecting my like 14 guys, including the draft picks, I'm up at like 190 something salary, and that's just with one max guy, and the rest are just like 9 mil, 10 mil, 15 mil kind of players, and having 6 or 7 of them and a maximum guy. Well, that's the math's all there. It's like over the Lux tax, and that's what I think 60% or more teams are going to be in that situation.
It's interesting because it's go on. Sorry, go on, Jojo.
Oh, I'm just looking through last night. There's some teams that aren't going to contend next year that are right near the second apron. Like I had a look through and I was like, okay, if Orlando go and match Kyrie Irving's deal, and they also bring back um, Naz Reid,
Yeah,
their salary's like right up there. Like it's right near that second apron, which is hectic because that team's not going to might not even make play-ins in its conference. And then there's a few others as well that are in the same boat where
Another one
they're
that
right
springs
up
to mind,
against. Like, yeah,
sorry,
God, what'd you say?
another one that springs to mind like that for me is probably Houston, because they're so top heavy with Halliburton, Maxey, and Jokic. Missing one of them for the whole year and only having 2 of them, like any given week, if Jokic or Maxey go down, that's probably an 0-4 week they're staring down the playoff because they're only going to have minimum guys on the fringe.
yeah.
I
And
didn't mind.
Vid's never been like a big free agency player. One, because that's just not his style, but probably more so because he's always floated around 14, 13 roster spots filled going into each free agency. So it doesn't. He's an example of a team that doesn't tend to fill out the ranks like others in free agency, and really theoretically would be looking to maximize out on the trade front, which he is in, at times pretty vacant in. So it's I agree with Ethan, it's pretty hard, and he has floated the idea, like just at least on paper, like in the Discord, to get a bit of a taste of things about moving one of those guys, but I don't know if he has the stomach to do so. But he might be forced to do that. So I think the vultures are circling on Houston.
I had a look at Houston. I'm not sure they need to do anything crazy. Like I kind of would, if I was video, I'd want to have a look at what the 1-2 punch of Maxi and Jokic is like. He's got a full MLE, which will get him at something that he needs. I think he needs some size on the wings, but
Yeah.
I don't actually think it's that bad for Vidi if he hits a couple of free agents. Like he had a pretty good record, so there's going
Yeah.
to be ways for him to win bids. And they've also got a decent draft pick. I think they've got picks 16-ish. So like there's ways for them
They
to
do well
improve.
not selling their picks off, for
Yeah.
shitty.
Yeah. So there's ways for them to improve. I'd have a really good look at Maxi and Jokic together. but yeah, I don't think it's doom and gloom. Like they're not operating in a scary part of like in a scary financial situation, and I think there's
Yeah.
avenue for them to push things in. So
And the stars
yeah, I don't
like
mind
Star and
Houston.
Joker he's the kind of skill set that will age well in 2K. So I agree. Yeah.
The teams I'm a little bit scared for are probably like yeah, Orlando. I'm a bit worried for them. Um, and then there was a whole heap of teams that I just put down that they need to pick a destiny really. Um,
How's
yeah, it'll
like I always say this. I feel like every sort of pod that we do around about this time that I'm sort of worried about Craig, but he always just somehow like turns it around at least to the point where you're like, oh well, that's respectable, you know. But he'd have to be there. He's always there. I've
were
been
they
so
above
like
were they above first apron this year?
I believe so because they got Jar, DeRozan. Fuck. I don't know.
Towns.
I've been so checked out. I'm genuinely sort of interested. I'm not just sort of trying to set anything up, but you know,
I think they
surely
were sitting
like
above the first, and I reckon they'll be close to the second, but they've got a couple of trades lined up where they're going
yeah, they
to
always
trade off some salary and bring in some like very similar players with that cost a little bit less. So I think
yeah.
Craig's on top of that.
Well, he's sitting on 177 currently. You know, he's got Cat Jar, OG, and DeRozan. Um, you know, which is like 150 mil as it is, sort of thing. So he'll be working on the fringes as always. But I mean,
That DeRozan contract is kind of like more valuable. Like quite,
oh
I had a
yeah,
look at it
and
the other
he's
day, and I was like, oh,
he
that's kind of
plays
a
like a
good
90. He
2K
plays like a
contract.
90 in 2K, like all day, every day. Yeah.
Yeah, and now that it's like a $25 million like good like good like star almost, his contract's gone from being like to like oh
Yeah.
that's kind of 2K
Yeah.
friendly, but
And Kings are a
at the
rebels
same
in the NBA, so like he's just going to
yeah
put up
exact
absolute numbers.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
About 5 minutes left. So what do we want to finish with? I think we've covered aprons, teams. You were just talking about teams that need to be pretty wary of where they're sitting. Um,
What are the teams with space?
Not many.
Yeah.
Three maybe.
there's a few that'll be players. Yeah, I think it's Toronto, the Clippers, the Knicks, and the
Hey,
Warriors that'll be
if the
big.
Kings wanted to get crazy, we could renounce Freddie and be close to 40 mil under the cap. Yeah, just saying. But the free agency pool just doesn't warrant that kind of cowboyish behavior.
Yeah, the trade market might though, but you can't trade. Not
Yeah,
yet.
but it's kind of that. I'm just
But
gonna
you
keep
can't trade.
walking on through that blatant disrespect from J-Mac, but it is just quickly it is another positive byproduct being with the aprons because it's always been a talking point over the years with I guess on the trade front it not replicating the NBA in terms of how beneficial it can be with cap space, and how teams really utilize NBA teams with space, for their own reasons, and I think that the aprons do sort of play in that sort of favor.
It'll be interesting to see which teams are also going to be playing for cap space next year. Like I was talking about how
Yeah.
Orlando are in a bit of a tricky spot, but they've got like probably I don't even know the exact number, but they got millions in expiring contracts this coming season too. So they'll have heaps of cap space. They just need to win enough to be able to bid next year. So
Yeah.
maybe Milo like rides out 1 year in the second apron, but then has all this expiring money and then can have a go in free agency next year. But it'll be interesting to see if there's any teams that are positioning themselves for the next off season, this off season.
Well,
I'm not sure if we have that many
off,
savvy
off the
GMs or
top
not.
off the top of my head, you would be, wouldn't you? Same with J-Mac, but I guess you're forever sort of positioning yourself best as you can. Trying to
Yeah,
think of
we
some
got a
other
lot of
teams.
guaranteed
What about
money.
what about Benny? What about Benny? I haven't even checked Philly, but
Many have got contracts.
Problem is,
Murray, Clarkson, Paul George, Jalen Green, that's like 120 million there already. So I don't think
Yeah.
that cap space. Jordan Clarkson's on 15 million. There's like, I reckon 3 teams have cap space. That's it.
Look, Benny's been way more active on the trade front, so I'm not gonna put anything past the guy with his form as of late. So
I'll just throw you one little preview if we got 30 seconds. The Clippers will have a true center in Hartenstein. They will have Paolo Banchero. They will have
Trey
is
Murphy.
it Jalen?
Trey
Pardon?
Murphy. And
yeah, Easton.
Easton's
No,
He's
gone.
good, man.
Harris is gone.
I think he's crazy wanting to move. I know his deal. He likes to keep flexible. He doesn't like to stack. You know, he tries to keep on a pretty strict timeline. But I think he's crazy wanting to deal either Trey Murphy or Easton, man.
Easton's gone.
Easton's
Oh,
gone.
really? Wow.
Yeah, Hartenstein.
I'm so jealous of that, bro.
Dude, that Clippers roster could be really, really good. Like
Really?
really good next season. It's their turn to go. Hopefully Andrew knows this.
He's
I
got
think he does.
half his roster is like breakout dudes who, like, in a couple of years would probably be mid-80s and be the second or third option on a contender. You know what I mean? Like, you got to give him props for at least that facet of the game. Yeah, building teams.
I think I would go as far to say that I would back the Clippers for a playoff spot, not even playing next year, potentially even home court.
Yeah, for
With
sure.
how the West is, I agree.
Court, I would think.
Top 6.
It's their turn.
I think
for sure.
half his team is going to get that standard fucking, like breaking all-star or breaking star 2K buff. Oh, that's half his team, man. You know what I mean? Like,
But maybe to take this full circle and to finish it off, if that is his time and he's taking Hartenstein now, then his 2 or 3 years starts now. And then Paolo's max, Jalen's max, Trey Murphy's 30. Who knows? Like, you got 2 or 3 years to swing, and then you have to downsize or you're going to just get smacked with penalties. So if he's decided to act, then he better be ready now to go.
And if you could pull off one deal, it'd be to deal obviously Harris and Collins, and that's his easy way to get up a lot of money and then sort of reload
Harris
for that.
is gone.
Oh yeah, that would
Harris and Easton.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, fair. Wow, good move. Good on
Right, a minute and a half to go. I'll ask each of you, what are you trying to achieve over the next part of the off season? You can be specific, you can be general. Ethan, I'll start with you. It might just be a continuation of the cap saving. What's your plan?
Just further flexibility without losing too much talent.
The dream. Nels?
Stay under the first apron and choose a direction. Maybe get a little bit younger or maybe go all in, but stay under the first apron.
Yeah. Clem, off-season goals?
Running mate for my boy Hero.
Nice. And a few more premium articles to get you in the game?
Yeah, well, I'm going to get credited for 2 pods now, so that's 16 points. That's another, I think I'm down 26 or 28, so, yeah.
He's getting close.
It's been a long way back.
What about you, Joel?
What about me? It's probably just going to be this is my last season not to do much, and then this switch is going to be well and truly flicked. So
just come a little bit earlier.
I don't think I'm going to finish early this time. That's what I always say, though. But hopefully, just one more season to simmer and build, and then when I'm stepping into the window, it's just going to be like all out assault, which will be fun.
Jay, mate, you can step into the window whenever you'd like, mate. Like, cut the shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanos mode, exactly right. It's been real.
Spurs have got one more run at it.
You'll be around forever as long as Giannis is breathing.
Yeah.
So we're under the first apron.
So
got to stay under the aprons.
10 seconds. Love to you all. Thanks for chatting.
Catch you, boys.
Yeah, boys.